Hi, it's Friday, July 18th, and we have several systems active still in the tropics today, though the primary focus of this video is going to be in the Western Pacific as we have Tropical Storm Wipha just off the coast of the northern Philippines, which is likely to intensify as it tracks northwest and brings impacts to the Philippines, Taiwan, and lots of southern China as we head throughout this weekend and into early next week. So I do want to briefly touch on the other two systems that we had active in the tropics. The first one is Invest 93L in the Atlantic. You might be able to pick out a very broad circulation, likely centered here in southeastern Louisiana this evening. And the system now being over land, which is forecast to push further inland over the next couple of days, has really lost its chance for tropical development. And for that reason, the Hurricane Center has dropped odds down to 0% on their latest tropical weather outlook. Though, like we talked about a couple of days ago, the impacts are really not that different compared to a tropical depression. We still have widespread scattered showers and storms across the deep south, and this will continue as this disturbance continues to push inland, which may lead to some localized flooding issues across multiple areas in the deep south. So make sure you're staying weather aware, and I'll leave a link to the Weather Service website at the top of the description. But other than that, the Atlantic is going to be fairly quiet as we head throughout the rest of July in all likelihood. Next time we'll have to worry about something here looks to be late July into early August. We're going to move to the southwest Indian Ocean next as we have a rare tropical storm to talk about in the southwest Indian Ocean. You can see for the most part in the tropical latitudes, as you would expect this time of year in the peak winter months, things are very quiet, with the exception of here in the eastern part of the basin where we have Tropical Storm 1 as designated by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center will likely just barely get a name from Mateo, France. This is their current forecast. They have it as a tropical depression right now, but becoming a brief, moderate tropical storm as we head throughout your Friday into the early part of the weekend, and then dissipating shortly after that as it tracks further west and stays far out to sea from any land areas. You can see it's very much in the middle of nowhere right now. It's going to be impacting nobody. And that's the best kind of a storm to have a record-breaking one. One that just doesn't impact anybody. But certainly a rare storm to see in the middle of winter in the southwest Indian Ocean. And we'll certainly see if we get a name on this in this couple of days. Okay, now we're going to move to the Western Pacific as we have a more impactful storm to talk about. Certainly the most impactful out of the storms we have active across the entire world today. That's Tropical Storm Wipha just northeast of the Philippines coast. And we talked about a couple of days ago the system was going to be very broad when it formed. You can see the very broad range shield that the system has. And this will be bringing a lot of impacts to a lot of areas, even though the center of the storm may track in between the Philippines and Taiwan. Will likely have heavy rainfall and gusty winds in both regions here as the system passes through. Now, something about this, we talked about the system was going to be strengthening in all likelihood as it comes northwest. That is still true, but one thing about these broader systems is that they tend to take a while to strengthen, and we don't typically see very rapid strengthening in these systems. And we'll likely just see a more gradual pace of intensification as the system continues tracking towards the west. But the primary threat here is going to be rainfall. So we have a lot of moisture, and this is going to be persisting even after the storm passes through because we have a lot of monsoon activity happening here in the Philippine Sea. You can see a large band of convection here from the South China Sea into the central Philippines. And this may lead to further development behind Wipha in the Philippine Sea. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But as the system continues tracking west, the environment is forecast to be generally favorable for some gradual strengthening. You'll see the system come in to or just north of the Philippines on this model forecast from the GFS as we head into Friday evening. Now, something to watch for is if we see a more compact area of low pressure form on the north side of this as it comes through. At the present point, the center of the storm will likely come north or come into the northern part of the Philippines, and it may happen to where we have the southern part get interrupted by the high terrain of the Philippines and maybe get a more tight system form on the north side. That's something to watch for, and that's what the GFS is trying to hint at here. You can see how the low kind of jumps from here to up here on this model forecast, maybe hinting at that kind of a reformation type deal of a more compact low on the northern side of this. If that does occur, we may see the system try to intensify at a more quick pace, though it may still have some moderate shear to deal with. You can see we do have high pressure up north, and while this upper level flow is in line with where the system is tracking, it's a little bit stronger than at the surface. If I get a sounding here from the GFS, you can see we have more 5-10 knot winds closer to the surface, but in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, it's more 15 to 20 knots, and that may cause a little bit of disruption onto the storm and hold it back from rapidly intensifying, even if we do get this tighter circulation to form on the north side. Now, even if we do get that, it's still going to have a pretty broad rain shield with it, so we're likely to get very heavy rainfall in both the Philippines and Taiwan as this comes through. This is a GFS ensemble forecast out the next 3 days of rainfall, and you can see some spots here along the mountainous terrain in the Philippines and Taiwan of 150 millimeters or more, and this is just throughout the next 3 days. Like I mentioned, we may see some development beyond this point, and you see that happening here with this rainfall out here in the Philippine Sea, and that could bring even more rainfall to the northern Philippines and Taiwan. But concerning this system as it tracks west, you can see the environment remains about stable as it comes towards China. The current model guidance has trended a little bit more north. We saw yesterday a trend south on the forecast track further into the South China Sea. Models are kind of bouncing back further north towards the south coast of China. It may be to do with that center relocation that the models are showing, like the GFS. But you can see this jump north, and it comes right into the southern coast of China around Hong Kong as a typhoon in all likelihood on this forecast. And this would have lots of strong winds with it. It would have a lot of storm surge on the north side of it. And it would, of course, have a lot of heavy rainfall with it as it comes through. We may see this system start to stall in this region as well. This may be another issue as well with the storm that might form in the Philippine Sea. And this is where I'll start talking about it now. You can see this upper level low here south of Japan begins to dig in by late weekend. And this will begin to foster, or fester rather, the convection here in the Philippine Sea, which will likely lead to more low pressure development. Like I talked about, we have a lot of monsoonal activity going on in this part of the world. You can see this large band of convection here in the South China Sea in central Philippines. And so we get low pressure development on the model in this case, and it looks like it may be a little bit different in this run, but we've seen some runs of the GFS to where this storm Wipha by this point is not as far west on some of the prior forecasts. And so it's closer to this other storm forming in the Philippine Sea. And so they start to do the Fujiwara effect, as it's called. That's where areas of low pressure, when they get close to each other, they begin revolving around each other, to where this one would go north and Wipha in this case would go south. And what may happen if that does occur is that the Wipha would come into China and then stall and slow down as it slowly begins to bend back towards the south. And that could lead to very heavy rainfall over an extended period of time in southern China. In this specific run, it looks like it does come far enough west to where we don't have a very strong interaction between the two. But this still would be a very rainy situation, because if I go to the rainfall rate map here, you can see we have Wipha here, and here's this trough axis extending east into this other broader storm that forms in the Philippine Sea. And this just spells for Taiwan, the Philippines, southern China, and even portions of Southeast Asia further west, a very rainy period here. And hopefully we don't have, a ton of heavy rainfall, especially in areas like Taiwan that don't need it. But I can't imagine that we get away without that, with this kind of monsoonal formation that we're seeing with Wipha and this next storm in the Philippine Sea. And this will likely be a very significant impact for all of these areas as we go throughout the next several days. So stay tuned to local weather offices in all of these areas as these storms form. I'll have more videos on Wipha and this other storm forming as we go throughout the next several days. And hopefully we don't see Wipha intensify all too much. You can see on the model it does intensify to what's likely a typhoon, though I do think this moderate shear that we have is going to keep it at bay from rapidly intensifying. That's at least some good news we can find in this scenario. So we're not likely, at least I think right now, to see rapid intensification with this system, just given its broad scale. But also, even if it does get more compact, this is moderate vertical wind shear, which is going to be shearing the system quite significantly if it is a more compact system. But again, stay safe in all these areas as the system comes through, and I will again have more videos on these systems throughout this weekend and into early next week. That's all that I've got for all the systems active in the world today. Stay safe in the southern US if there are any flooding issues with this system, and I likely won't have too many more updates on the southwestern Indian Ocean system. From here on out, we're probably just focusing on the western Pacific with all the activity that I just talked about. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.